So a very, very good evening to all of you. Good morning to all of you who are joining us from elsewhere. And I'm so happy yet again to introduce my dear friend, Shenpenn Khymsar. And just to introduce him, uh, he was born in Darjeeling. I erroneously wrote somewhere he was born in Tibet because some article wrote. And of course, I did correct that, Shen. You were born in Darjeeling.
You were not
Yeah.
entirely wrong. My soul was born in Tibet.
Okay. Okay. So Shen's soul was born in Tibet, and he was born in Darjeeling, and he grew up there as well. So his Himalayan way of life has impacted a lot of his craft and the way as a person he is. And as a person, if you meet him and, the things he talks about, he gave this wonderful lecture in my class at UCLA, which my students have never been able to forget, and neither have I, that how values, philosophies, Buddhist values kind of permeate your personality and how they affect as a person how you are. So even if you're not religious or anything, the place you grow up, that really creates an impact in how you deal with people and how you become as a person. And I feel that's so important, especially in today's world. So Shen has directed his first real feature film from Darjeeling. He's directed before as well, but this one is special. He made it after 72 years. Like, in Darjeeling, there's not been a feature film before that. That touched upon the human rights crusade during the Gorkhaland agitation. And in the film, he sought to combine political filmmaking with entertainment, serving as an outlet for the frustration that youths experience through different means of expression. And in his films, you will see the expression being music and all of that. He was also seen in this film on the OTT platform, Shaadisthan is the name of the film, where he plays the role of a musician, and he is a musician in real life as well. He also directed a Tibetan full-length epic rockumentary on heavy metal and Buddhism called Journey of a Dream, which is an inspiring story that illustrates his passion for heavy metal music. He has spent almost 25 years in the West, in Canada, in Los Angeles. And of course, he goes back and forth to his Himalayas, where he is right now. He's zooming in from Darjeeling, I suppose, right, Shen? And today he will be talking about a journey of life in art through the lens of the Himalayas, about how, what have we of Shenpenn Khymsar today. So Shen, over to you. We are so excited that you're here, and let's start.
Thank you very much, Sonali. I'm always a little uncomfortable with such elaborate introductions, and I generally feel very undeserving. But yeah, thank you very much. I am speaking from my birthplace, my hometown, the beautiful Darjeeling, once the summer capital for the British Raj when they ruled India. So before I start, I want to say hello to everyone. Thank you for joining, and I hope more people will join us. But if I don't know how you guys can hear me and see me clearly?
Very clearly.
Yes, yes.
Okay, because in the mountains here, the Wi-Fi is a little shady, so I'm really glad that this is working. But wherever you guys are, I would appreciate if everybody could turn their videos on and just mute your mic, because I would personally love to see everyone's face, if that's okay. I mean, you don't have to.
No,
but
please
I find
do.
it much more
Everybody is allowed to do that. I'm the one who always says, shut your mics, and because of the bandwidth, because when I'm in the Himalayas, that is a very important thing. But
Right.
It's okay, Shen.
And you know what, this is kind of typical of me. Even without intention, I end up breaking rules since I was a child. I somehow end up disrupting whatever is set. So that's in short. That's my introduction. I'm as they say in America, I'm a little shit disturber. But thank you so much for joining, everyone. Let's see who is here. Sam, Ramel, everybody, Sonali, of course, Vijay Lakshmi. I just want to acknowledge everyone. Harkesh, Sneha, there is an S on top right. Elizabeth, Krishna, and Raka, and Manan, and Sayoni, and Subhadeep, and Satyadeep Chetri, and Shikhar Rai. Yeah, so everyone, Devayan, Sena, Upasna, Ghale. So thank you all. Like Sonali said, my name is Shenpenn. Ethnically, I'm Tibetan. I guess I'll take this off the glare. So ethnically, I'm Tibetan, but I was born in Darjeeling, and I was the first son to be born in exile, after the Chinese invasion of Tibet. And I grew up, I went to school here, I grew up here, and Darjeeling, for those who know, it's, unfortunately, people only know the tea and, the picturesque mountains, but Darjeeling has a lot more than that. A great culture of literature and poetry and music. So I grew up with a lot of that influence, and because of the colonial, I call it the colonial hangover. We could experience, the dizziness of the colonial hangover, but it also came with a lot of good things. I grew up with a lot of music and live music and so much art and talent here. But having said that, when I was growing up, it was also one of the darkest periods in the history of Darjeeling, because I grew up, when I say I grew up, like I was a teenager right when the Gorkhaland agitation started. It started in 1986. When it heated up, I was a teen, and the times were very, very tough. And as I'm 48 now, but I remember, when I was a teenager, it was the late 80s, early 90s. We grew up with a lot of rock music and cinema and a lot of spaghetti western and, all of that, Hindi movies. And so I remember personally kind of finding refuge and finding shelter and a place to hide from all the disruption and all the craziness, political upheavals, violence. So a lot of that. So basically art in general, music in general, and cinema and books, those were my refuge. If I didn't have that, I would have probably been dead a long time ago. So they all saved my life. So the topic, lengths of the Himalayas. So, the Himalayan region, everybody knows it's a very vast region. There's many different microcultures, subcultures, but predominant culture is the Indo-European speaking and the Tibeto-Burmese speaking, right? So Indo-European speaking is Nepal and the Kashmir side, and then there's all the subcultures, Gaddis, and then the Tibeto-Burmese is the Tibetans and the Sikkimese and the Bhutanese and the Lepchas and so when you kind of narrow it down today, if you look at the Himalayas, the people of the Himalayas, and they all have their own regions. But unfortunately, the two largely spoken and two large cultures of two largely spoken languages and two cultures of the hills, of the mountains, are still marginalized and suffering a lot in some way or the other. Now, Tibet, everybody knows Tibet plays a very, very big role in the Himalayas, because it's the roof of the world. It's the ceiling of the Himalayas. I like to call it the ceiling of the Himalayas. So from that ceiling, there's 10 rivers that flow into Southeast Asia, right? From all the way to your Brahmaputra, and there's, Mekong and so many rivers, 10 rivers. So it is the source of uh, um, fresh drinking water from the Himalayan glacier. So that comes from Tibet. So after the invasion of Tibet, by the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, Tibet has been going through severe atrocities and genocide and ethnic cleansing. A lot of people only know about Tibet as this spiritual place and a romanticized Shangri-La, but we're just like everyone else. We just had a beautiful culture and a beautiful way of life. Buddhism, to me, it's not a religion; it's a science of mind, and so that's what kind of has become popular. But geopolitically and socio-culturally, socio-economically too, it is important, because Tibet is also known as the third pole. There's the North Pole, South Pole, and Tibet is the third pole, because it is the only country in the world that has fresh drinking water reserves coming, fresh. So that is a huge reason why Tibet is so crucial for the rest of Asia. And also, Buddhism, the Buddhism that we know today worldwide. So I think preservation and everyone's awareness of Tibet would actually really benefit. So this is one big, the roof itself is suffering of the Himalayas. So I wanted to touch upon that. The second, and then ironically, I am connected to both these big, issues. So the second part is the Darjeeling Hills. Darjeeling, when the British were ruling India, Darjeeling was the summer capital, right? It was the most sought after place during the British Raj. And if I may, Darjeeling had the best Ivy League schools of India, and it's still running on its past reputations right now. The big schools and the roads and the tea gardens and just the geography of it, and the steam engine, the toy train that is so famous. It was brought from Glasgow, Scotland, to Darjeeling. So Darjeeling was very important, and also a lot of people are not even aware that Darjeeling, was one of the first places where electricity and telephone was installed first in the entire India. So, but what has happened, over the years, the Nepali speaking, because predominantly Darjeeling is a Nepali speaking region. So Tibet is suffering, which is a big, big part of the Himalayas. And Darjeeling is a big part of the Himalayas culturally, So Darjeeling has been suffering a lot, forever, because there was a time when Darjeeling was way more advanced than even Mumbai, in terms of, like, say, music and culture and fashion and education, but today I am in Darjeeling. And the reason why I come back here is to do something, and I have been working on projects to kind of, lift the Darjeeling spirit, especially the spirit of the youth. So Darjeeling has been also suffering a lot because of politics, because Darjeeling is, the funny thing is, it's not a part of Northeast, where it should have been, but it's not, because it's inside Bengal, West Bengal. And during the CPM government of West Bengal, Jyoti Basu, Darjeeling had its first uprising and the first, movement of the separate state, demand of separate state. Since 1986, 2021, that problem is still going on. The infrastructure, the development, there's no university in the Darjeeling Hills. Our kids here, our students here have to go to DU, or they have to go to the NBU, North Bengal, which is a part of the West Bengal thingy. Musicians, we have always had world-class musicians, but not a single musician has been able to buy a house playing music. So there's so many issues like this, and And then the politics here is one of the most unintelligent, regressive, backward politics. And it's a very systemic thing. So I don't want to get into politics and all that, but I basically, you are looking at a product of these two big issues in the Himalayas. I am a son, I'm a son, a spiritual son of Tibet, but I'm a son of soil of Darjeeling. And it burns me, it hurts me, and it aches when I see how behind Darjeeling is. I've known talented musicians who are older than me, or even from my generation, and most of them have become alcoholics, drugs, they've become taxi drivers, they've become, excuse me, so 1 second, can you tell them, please, can you guys move to the, Prashant, kindly उन लोगों को उस तरफ ले जाओ, please. मेरा अभी important वो चल रहा है, please, okay? Sorry about that. So I basically, my introduction I wanted to give you is I'm a product of all of this. And then I moved to the US and Canada about 26 years ago. So I kind of spent more than half my life there. And I learned a lot. I consider myself, I don't consider myself a born educated and intelligent and, talented and all that. I've always been an underdog since I was a kid. I've always been that kid who did not make it to the football team or the cricket team. I've always been that guy who could not make it to the band, to be a band member, when I was a young boy in Darjeeling. But I had so much aspiration and passion. So I always moved, as a turtle, not as a rabbit, So it's taken a long time, but I've come to realize that talents and skills can be developed over time. But your passion, the fire in the belly, you can't. You have to have it. So that's why I'm still doing what I love. And people who are way more talented, guys that I looked up to, they've all given up on their passion, and which saddens me because of that, it ends up, without their fault, it's not their fault, but it ends up becoming a huge disservice to humanity. It ends up becoming a huge disservice to the world, to the communities, because they all have to be, they all eventually get shackled by the norms of the society. They get their wings clipped, so they all compromise and they all become a victim of this colossal mammoth dark system fabricated with a lot of glitters and glam and fancy things, education system, religion, politics, media, all of that. So I have just been a little daring since I was a kid, so I've kind of gone against, I worked in the corporate world also in New York, but I quit my corporate job in 2008. And I decided to pursue my passion and my dream of telling stories and becoming a filmmaker, a writer, a poet, a thinker, and a musician. And it hasn't been easy at all. It's a very lonely journey, but I'm so proud and grateful and humbled and so, I don't know, so I feel so blessed that I'm still able to do it today. And I didn't give up, like Snoop Dogg. There's an award show where he says, I'd like to thank myself for not quitting, and I feel that way too, because of the tenacity. I'm glad that I didn't quit, and I'm doing it, and I'm at a stage now. I'm in a position where I can make some difference. So now coming back to, these are the problems that I have in my life. Not personal, but my social, my background, my ethnic problem, the problems with my ethnicity, my place, my people. Now my armor and my weapon and the way I fight it is art. And I just had a meeting with a retired chief secretary here today. In India, chief secretary is, IAS officer. They're very big bureaucrats. They're almost on par with the governor in the US. So I spoke to him, and I know all the leaders, politicians, the corrupted ones, everybody, and I tell them straight up, and I tell the youth of Darjeeling that the only thing that can save Darjeeling my place, my beloved Darjeeling Hills. Politics and religion cannot save Darjeeling. It cannot. The only thing that can save Darjeeling, and I genuinely mean it, I'm not just speaking very romantically. If my vision works out, Darjeeling can be saved. And the only thing that can save Darjeeling is arts. When I say arts, music, films, theater, books, literature, all of this. But the only thing is, I say this to our people here, our talented, creative people. The only thing is that the art that we produce, the content that we produce from the hills, from the mountains, it has to be world class now. Our musicians have to be on par with the musicians around the world. Like, we have to aspire. I'm not saying that's the benchmark and that's the hallmark, but we have to aspire. Our musicians have to aspire to be on the levels of the Grammy winners and the Grammy nominations. Our filmmakers have to aspire to go to the Cannes and the Busans and the Venice and Berlin and eventually Oscars, because we have so many stories that we haven't even told. I mean, it's a tragedy that I am the first one from the Darjeeling Hills that has made a film. My upcoming film called Broken Wings, which is not released yet, but we're looking towards the end of January or closer to Valentine's Day, theatrical release in India and Nepal, and then eventually it will be on some OTT platform for online consumption. But it makes me sad. A lot of people say, oh, Shenpenn, you're the first one who made a film on the issues of Darjeeling. First one who made a from Darjeeling, told a story of Darjeeling with Darjeeling talents. It's the first one. Because when I say this, some people might misunderstand. There's been a lot of films that has been shot in Darjeeling, Hollywood and Bollywood films. From Bollywood, I mean, I guess many of you are from the Indian subcontinent and Indian region. So everybody knows the movie Barfi. I think it was Rajesh Khanna's Aradhana or one of those movies where Mere Sapno Ki Rani Kab Aayegi, that song, those were all picturized in Darjeeling. Barfi was shot in Darjeeling. There's so many other movies, Hollywood too. But nobody from Darjeeling has made a film after 70 some years of independence, in India. And the Gorkhaland agitation started in 1986. So 1986 to 2021, there has been 3 different major phases of revolution and agitation here. Thousands of people have died. There's so much regression here, but nobody has told our stories. The word Gorkhaland has not even been mentioned in any cinema. We don't have any we've not had up until now, we've not had any working actors from Darjeeling in the mainstream Bollywood, So I don't blame anyone, I'm always a solution-oriented kind of guy. So I realized that there was a lot of reasons why this thing happened, but I tell myself and I tell people from Darjeeling that we need to have more intelligent representations of ourselves, wherever we go. So we are aware, we have to be culturally sensitive, we have to educate ourselves, we have to be empathetic, we have to be kind, but we have to be fearless in representing ourselves and telling our stories. Like, I've had people from my own place warn me and tell me, even today I was told, be careful, because when my film comes out, there might be a big backlash from the West Bengal government, which is Mamata Banerjee's party, But what my response is? I actually hope that happens. I really hope that the West Bengal government will try and ban my film. I really want that to happen, because then I can make my strategic moves too, because this is a well thought of. I didn't come back to Darjeeling to make a film to make money or to become famous, This film, Broken Wings, is my love letter to Darjeeling, and to show the brutal truth that has happened, the things that I saw as a teenager, and we are all equally responsible too. The people from Darjeeling are also responsible. So it's my my intention has to be my intention has been that of a kind of a wake-up call for our people here, and also educating the rest of India on what Darjeeling is. I'm at a stage in my life where I kind of cringe when the moment people talk about Darjeeling, they mention tea. Oh, wow, Darjeeling tea, and toy train, the steam engine, and the mountains. The mountains was not put here by human beings. It was here. The tea was brought by the British. The toy train was brought by the British. But there's more to us, So we have to tell our own stories. So I've started to kind of cringe. I don't react negatively, but this narrative is also very propaganda-ish in nature. That because tea, every single one of you have heard of Darjeeling tea. I don't have it with me right now, but but a lot of people don't realize that the Darjeeling, which has been grown by the local Darjeeling people, the tea garden, the people who live in the tea gardens for decades and decades and decades. It is the people from this part of the world that grew the tea, that plucked the tea, that did all the process that goes into making tea, the first flush, second flush, packaging, all of that. But a lot of you, I'm sure, don't even know that 99% of that Darjeeling tea's revenue goes to Calcutta. 1%. There are people who are working for less than 200 rupees a day here, the tea garden people. So I don't feel proud to talk about the famous Darjeeling tea, because there is a systematic genocide, if I may, behind it. Emotional, psychological, cultural genocide. The marginalization. No local people here, our people have not been able to own the tea gardens. The toy train that is supposed to be, UNESCO heritage train, it belongs to the central government. And now, instead of restoring that toy train, and instead of branding it or whatever, restructuring it and making the roads wider, and making the train tracks healthier, and taking care of the old steam engines, they've now brought in diesel engines, and that whole beauty. This is a mountain town. We're supposed to have houses that are built with wood, where there is cold weather and rain, so that there's no mold. There should be wood. The British made wooden cottages and homes 150, 200 years ago. But our people, we are creating concrete jungles. We're making cement buildings, and it's cold and it's mold, And so there's so much of regression, even mentally, emotionally, socially, psychologically. So the amount of unlearning and deconstruction that is needed here is almost very, very daunting. But I've taken up this challenge to do whatever I can to inspire the youth here and to re-educate. And, because, you're an academic, Sonali. I mean, most of you are all, educationists. And some people are religious. But if you think about it, religion, education system, media, governments, what they have done, and parents who are a systemic, outcome of that, all of that powerful entities. What has happened is all of us throughout history here, we've been taught what to think. We've all been taught what to think. We've been taught to think that you are an Indian. We've been taught to think you are a guy, you're a man, you're a woman, you're Hindu, you're Muslim, you're this, you're that, you're white, you're black. We're poor, you're rich, and then we've been taught what we're allowed to eat, what we're supposed to eat. We're taught what we're supposed to not eat. We're taught who we're supposed to even marry for generations. I mean, things are changing, but the repercussion of that is very, very powerful and evident. So we've been taught what to think. And I'm trying my best to teach all the young people that I mentor how to think. I don't want to teach them what to think. I want them to figure out what they want to think by themselves. But how to think, how to be critical, how to be analytical, how to be kind, how to be empathetic. The meaning of education actually should not mean, a degree that enables me to be in a social hierarchy, and be better than someone else, or get paid better than someone else, or get a certain amount of respect, more respect than someone else. But that's what's happened. As far as I know, the true meaning of education, the genuine meaning of education, is to be able to put myself in shoe and empathize. That is education. But all of us have been schooled. We've not been educated. So I've taken on a colossal, massive, daunting task, but I love it. I love challenges, and I am so profoundly grateful that I have a purpose in life. And my purpose is, to speak for Tibet and to do whatever I can to raise awareness for Tibet and for my birthplace, Darjeeling. Both these places are actually heaven on earth. But politics and greed and propaganda and mediocrity has messed it up. So as artists, as educationists, as forward thinkers, as progressive people, our collective moral responsibility to do whatever we can to discuss these things. Most of us live in fear, and I've come to realize, of course, with the help of Buddhism and with the help of my life experiences and the mistakes I've made and the times I've fallen and failed, I've come to realize that truth, an ultimate truth, and nothing but the truth can set us free. But it is so important to figure out what the truth is. The truth cannot be biased truth. The truth cannot be convenient truth. The truth cannot be opportunistic truth. The truth, if I am wrong, I am wrong. That's it. If my mother is wrong, whom I love to death, if she is wrong, she's wrong. If my girlfriend is wrong or my wife is wrong, she's wrong. So we have to be able to teach our kids, our generations, how to be honorable, how to be integral. These things have become a very fairy tale kind of words now, these virtues. Sonali and I was talking about it. This India and this part of the world, we have the greatest, vault, the greatest wealth of wisdom, ancient wisdom here. But what have we created? We have created a conning, lying, misleading kind of communities. Except Elizabeth, does everybody understand Hindi here? I'll translate it for you. I want to say something in Hindi. What has happened is, because I've been working in India for the last 3 years making my film. I came back, very gung-ho and romantic. Oh, I'm going back to my place and I'm going to make a film and everybody's going to be happy. Everybody's going to support. But I found just the opposite. The amount of pushback, the amount of conning, the amount of problems. So मैंने क्या देखा, एक चीज मैंने हिंदुस्तान में देखा, मैं हिंदुस्तानियों को दोष नहीं दे रहा हूँ, ये बहुत सिस्टेमिक और बहुत डीपली रूटेड इशू है. यहाँ पे हम लोग रोजमर्रे की जिंदगी में रोज हम लोगों के बीच में झूठ बोलना इतना कॉमन हो गया ना, तो ये झूठ अब झूठ नहीं लगता है. यहाँ पे प्रोफेशनलिज्म बहुत कम है, एफिशिएंसी, ये सब ऑटोमेटिकली जब हम एक दूसरे से हमेशा झूठ बोलते रहेंगे, और ढोंग करते रहेंगे, धर्म के नाम पे या मजहब के नाम पे या व्हाटएवर, हम लोग ऐसा करते रहेंगे, लेकिन मन में छल. मैंने देखा खुद काम करते समय पे सब झूठ बोलते हैं यहाँ पे, मेरे खुद के दोस्त और मेरे रिश्तेदार भी, क्योंकि यहाँ का एक संस्कार वैसे बन चुका है. कोई अभी मुझसे मिलने आ रहा है मेरे काम की वजह, हम काम कर रहे हैं और से 4:30 बजे का मीटिंग था, एंड they're supposed to come at 4:30, 4:30 बजे. जाहिर बात है, ये स्वाभाविक बात है कि वो आधा घंटा लेट हो सकता है, किसी कारण, वो फोन करके मुझे बता सकता है कि भैया और व्हाटएवर ब्रदर शेनपेन, मैं आधा घंटा लेट हूँ। लेकिन यहाँ पे क्या होता है, मैं फोन करता हूँ, अरे भाई कहाँ हो आप? सर 2 मिनट में यही हूँ, 2 मिनट आ गया मैं, है वो आधा घंटा बाद। ऐसे झूठ का कोई वो रिपरकशंस नहीं मानते लोग, देयर इज नो अकाउंटेबिलिटी। लेकिन ये सब झूठ कंपाउंड होते 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 कंपाउंड होते होते हमने क्या कर दिया, हमने एक ऐसा ऐसा माहौल क्रिएट किया हुआ है कि सब झूठ बोल रहे हैं, एक दूसरे को उल्लू बना रहे, एक दूसरे से एक दूसरे को हमेशा ठगने की कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन बातें सब प्यार से करते हैं, अरे सर चापलूसी करना ये वो। सो देयर इज सो मच ऑफ अनलर्निंग. And then in the West, there's again similar but different kind of problems. So Elizabeth, just in short, what I was talking about is how we all have created a culture where we lie to each other, sophisticated lies, pretty lies, lies that don't seem like lies, but when those lies compound, it has a very lasting negative impact on society, which we are not which we have stopped caring about. So when I talked about virtues like honesty and integrity and discipline and all of these things, so all of these things as a filmmaker and as a poet and as a writer, as a thinker, because I'm not all figured out. I'm not all figured out. I always in Nepali language I tell my friends, and I tell them, because people kind of praise me today, and there are people who say they look up to me, I find it very, very uncomfortable still, because I am actually someone who's fallen. I'm one of those. I'm that pebble in by the riverbed that has fallen from the mountains. मैं वो पत्थर हूं जो पहाड़ से गिरते हुए नीचे पानी में आ गया. So गिरते समय you go through a lot of ठोकर, lot of beating. So when you reach you reach there with the nice polished, same with diamonds. When we are capable of becoming beautiful and amazing and caring, why do we settle for? Because the penetration of greed in everything has taken over our minds. So this is what I believe. And so I've made a film called Broken Wings, which will release soon. I'm kind of technologically retarded at the moment because of this whole Zoom and all. I always like interaction face to face. So I'm not quite sure how to show you the teasers or trailers of my film, but you can Google my name, or you can go to YouTube and check out the teaser of the film Broken Wings. And when the film comes out, I'm quite certain that it will bring some sort of discourse, a much needed discourse in the community here. And this film is my love letter to Darjeeling. I wrote, produced, directed, composed the entire soundtrack music. I wrote a song in Hindi too. I never thought I could write in Hindi, but I wrote a song in, my most comfortable language is English, because I've always written in English. I've written poetry in English, but today I was invited to, I had the honor of reciting a poem in Chaurasta. It's a big famous square. There was a couple sort of poet meeting, and I got to recite my first and the only Nepali poetry I've written, which debunks the romanticism of the brave Gorkhas, and the identity that Nepali Gorkhas have in India and in Nepal, and even the Nepali people, themselves, that gloat on this bravery and courage and the weapon kukuri. I wanted to debunk that, demystify that, because that is very, very taxing. If we are brave, we have to go rub shoulders with the rest of the world. If we are brave, we have to innovate. We have to create an environment where everybody thrives. We have to be the wind beneath everybody's all the broken wings that are here and help them fly. And that is true. So this narrative is actually planted and orchestrated when they recruited the simple Nepali people of Nepal and sent them to war, and the Nepali people are simple and innocent, and they went and fought and they sacrificed themselves. And so that has been a narrative of pride for the Nepali community. And I always tell them this is very taxing. It is very, very detrimental. So my poetry was on that today, how, I wanted to kind of change the perspective.
Could you recite that, Shen? Could you recite a few lines of your poem?
Sure. And see, the language, again, Nepali language is also, the script is Devanagari, the Lipi, and Hindi. And so I'll read it slowly, and then I will try to kind of translate it. And it sums up what I feel and what I think, and my angst and my frustration. This is called, and the conundrum is the title of the poem is called Mo Gorkhe. Means, when people say I'm a Gorkha, there is that bravery and the kukuri, kind of paralleled with it. That's the identity. So I named it Mo Gorkhe. I'm trying to see if I can translate in English quickly, but anyways, in the native Nepali language. And this is my first ever I've written. And I wrote this because, it irked me and it ached me when I saw the problems here, when I saw what has become of my birthplace, out of frustration and sadness. I thought if I ever write a poetry in Nepali too, I thought it would be one of romance and love and, of a girl and all. But mine became a socio-cultural, socio-political poem. So this one's called Mo Gorkhe, means me Gorkha, Mo Gorkhe hoon, tara mo tyo hoina, mo Gorkhe hoon, tara mo tyo hoina, जसको बारेमा सारा संसारको अगाडि मेरो पहिचान एउटा खुकुरीमै सीमित रह्यो. So I'll translate this in English. Mo Gorkhe, me Gorkhe. Yes, I am a Gorkha, but I'm not the one that you guys, you guys have heard of and known all over the world. My identity is not just a weapon. My identity is not just limited to a weapon, kukuri. So, म गोर्खे हुँ, तर म त्यो होइन जसको बारेमा सारा संसारको अगाडि मेरो पहिचान एउटा खुकुरीमै सीमित रह्यो. सोझोपन र मूर्खतालाई आँटको नाम दिएर रमाउने र गर्व हुने गोर्खे पनि म होइन. सोझोपन र मूर्खतालाई means my simplicity and my dumbness too, for a lack of a better word. By falsely giving my simplicity and my foolishness, by giving it or by ornamenting it and calling it bravery, I am not somebody who takes pride in that or gloats in that glory. म त्यो गोर्खे हुँ, I am that Gorkha, जसको हृदय को गहराई, मन को गंभीरता, भावना को ज्ञान, उसको ठुलो र विचार को ऊंचो भनेर चिने. I am that Gorkha who has depth in his heart. Excuse me. I get a little emotional too. Sorry. So I'm that Gorkha that has depth in his heart, that has compassion in his heart, that depends on emotional intelligence, and someone who believes in elevated thoughts and progressive thoughts. म त्यो गोर्खे हुँ जसको हृदयको गहराई, मनको गम्भीरता, भावनाको ज्ञान, सोचको ठुलो र विचारको ऊंचो भनेर चिन्ने। मेरो मेरो पहिचान, मेरा पहचान सिर्फ एक मात्र हथियार होइन। मेरा पहिचान सिर्फ एक मात्र नहीं है। You know, my identity is not just merely a weapon. र मेरो बहादुरी होइन। My identity is not my courage only. So I'm asking people to now think. Let's think a little bit. सोचते हम लोग. Let's think. Who has benefited from this weapon? Who has benefited from our courage, so-called courage? British government, you know, the Indian government. All the Himalayan borders are protected our people. But the people, this propaganda needs to end and debunked and talked about. So I'm just saying that can be more than that. We can be more than just merely known for a weapon. Very difficult in Nepali and kind of translate, but you get the gist of it, you know? So basically I was, you know, we are much more than this. Let the world know us for our innovations. I'm translating immediately, so please pardon. It might not sound poetic. We are much more than this. Let the entire world know us for our innovations. Let the entire world know us for our unity and fraternity and brotherhood. Sorry. Let the world know us for our literature and art. Let the world know us for our love and compassion. Let the world know Gorkhas as intelligent, you know, people, wise people. Let the world know that the Gorkhas are environmentally loving people who embraces environment. Let the world know that the Gorkha people are not somebody who likes to dominate anybody, and also who will not bow down to anybody in domination. And let us, amongst ourselves, let us make sure that for personal gain, we don't deceive our own people. That let us be that kind of Gorkha who does not deceive our own people for personal gain, for power, for seat. Let us be that kind of a Gorkha or Nepali from Darjeeling that will not deceive or deceive our own people for personal gains, and who will not deceive the entire community. The conspiracies of outside entities, the conspiracies of the Bengal government, for example, let that not divide us, you know, let that not create friction amongst us. Let us be known for someone who uses our heart and our brains wisely and fearlessly. Yes, I am a Gorkha, but I'm not that Gorkha who will use an axe on my own feet. I'm not that person who's going to chop my own feet. You know, I am that Gorkha who can rub shoulders with the rest of the world. Yes, I'm that Gorkha. So this is a loose translation of that. So my film Broken Wings also kind of encompasses of this, talks about all of this, and like I said earlier, the only thing that can save Darjeeling, and actually not just Darjeeling, I mean worldwide, I genuinely think that the only thing that can save the world is arts, you know, kala. And if we're all educated people, you're all academics and, you know, scholars and writers and thinkers, if you think about it, there is a very systemic reason why arts all over the world is at the bottom of the education system. Whereas we're all born artists and creative when we were just born and we were growing up. But since the advent of the industrial education, what has become? You and industrial education now for the last, I don't know, since the introduction of economy 400 years or so, what has become of the world? The corporations dictate and regulate the education system, the industrial education system. You have to be an engineer, doctor. I'm not against it. Of course, we need engineers and doctors too, but art is looked down upon. Art is at the bottom. Art, when people, even like in India, when people ask, what stream are you taking in college or university? Arts. So automatically we feel kind of not worthy. And then people look at us also, oh, it's arts, it's not very, there's a systematic reason why arts is at the bottom. Religions don't want arts to come up because art has the ability to wisen everybody up. And art will close the shop of religions. The business of religions will be shut if art is on top. The business of capitalism, the business of corporations will be shut if art is at the on top. So there's this very deeply rooted reason why art is at the bottom. So we, as citizens of the world, we as human beings, we have to realize the importance of art, and that's why I say art is the only thing that can save the world, because it will create an environment where everybody is creative and that creativity, but the education system and religion and politics and corporations, they don't want us to think. They don't want you to use your own intelligence. They're all telling you what to think. Every time you're watching a TV, you're watching ads, you're watching promos, you're listening to political speeches, you're listening to teachings from some dharma guru or teachers or priests or whatever, all the religious leaders. What is happening? You are getting programmed. Your ability of thinking is getting lesser, and your ability to have your own mind is diminished. I am not against the philosophy. I consider myself a very spiritual person. I've studied and I've read the entire Bhagavad Gita. I'm a Buddhist by practice, but Bhagavad Gita, Hinduism and Buddhism to me is not religion. It is the science of mind. It's the highest form of philosophy. It's the highest psychology. Look at the world we all live in. Every single one is affected or impacted by government policies or corporate. If you buy a house, you have to sign this thick of papers, right, Sonali? We both have houses in the US. This thick in India too. You buy a cell phone, you get a postpaid, contract. You have to sign contract. You buy anything today, everything is contracts, legalities. Have you ever thought who drafts these legalities? Governments and corporations, they lobby together, they go to bed together, and they draft this. But who are the ones who are drafting it? Economists and lawyers. What do economists and lawyers know about the human emotions? Two brothers of the same family have a very different life. How can you have a classroom filled with 20, 30 students and teach them one way and expect a result? They come from 20, 30 socioeconomic backgrounds. They come from 20, 30 different religions. So how can we do that? It's a very archaic thing. So I personally think at some point we all have to figure out a way where, I understand economists are important. Lawyers are also important. But policies and contracts should be drafted by economists, lawyers, philosophers, and psychologists, for at least together. How can you have one rule for everyone? My situation is completely different from yours. My emotional stability is completely different from yours, and yours from mine. So there's so much of work, my dear friends, so much of work. And I'm grateful, and I'm fortunate that I'm at this stage in my life where I have a sense of purpose, and I feel like I'm learning so much, and I have so much more to learn, and so much of debunking, and deconstruction of myself too. So much of unlearning I've been trying to do over the years. So So yeah, I think I've talked enough. It's almost an hour. So I hope I made some sense, if not all, to you guys. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm a very informal guy, so thank you.
It was so wonderful, Shen. It was really wonderful, all these things that you talked about, and so important. And I really, your thrust on empathy especially has always moved me, because I feel compassion is so lacking in people today. And I feel if each one of us has compassion, we'll be better people, we'll be empathetic, and those basic qualities are so important to do good, to be good. So at this point, I'll urge all of you to kind of, if you have comments and you have questions to ask Shen, please do. Your talk has really moved. It has moved me. I'm sure it's moved a lot of people here. So Romel is the first question. Yes, Romel, go ahead.
Where is Romel?
I think there are no lights in his house.
Can I see your, can you guys turn your picture on?
Yeah, Romel, you can unmute yourself. And I don't know, you said that there's no power in your house, right?
Yeah, so there's no power by choice. I don't need a light in my house, so I have a small light, if that helps. I'm pointing it. I might look very ghostly, but forgive me for that.
I personally love spirits of all sorts. So hi, Romel.
So 2 questions, if you permit me, Sonali.
Go ahead, Romel.
In fact, I have more than 2, but I'll try and limit myself to 2. So I can relate to a lot of what you say. Lots of traditional culture, the power to ask questions and think for yourself. These are issues which affect me deeply as well. But there are 2 things I want to ask you. First question is to the pebble which rolled down the mountains and landed somewhere in India. What do you think of, how do you think political independence will sort out some of these problems? That's my first question.
Political independence of Tibet, you mean?
Tibet or Gorkhaland or the Gorkhas and the Buddhists as a cultural, unit.
Okay. One, I mean, before even solving, one, it's the right thing to do. To have, I might not even live in Tibet, but the Tibetans in Tibet, they need to have the right to self-determination. So that just, that is the first thing. They should have a right to their own way of living. The other thing is economically also, and environmentally. Like environmentally, Tibet is absolutely crucial for the entire world, because everything has a compound effect. And like I said, there are 10 rivers that flow from Tibet. So you guys, I'm sure you guys either know, or you can, if you're not aware, you can do some research. So if these 10 rivers are governed by a totalitarian system, then you can anticipate what is the outcome and what has been happening till now. So one is that. Don't quote me on the numbers because I don't know the exact statistics, but at least anywhere in between 300 to 500 billion dollar worth of natural resources have been extracted from Tibet. Over 100 billion dollars worth of timber from Tibet. Every single one, when the cell phone culture started, when the mobile phone started, everybody, all the mobile phones, most depend on lithium batteries, right? Everybody, lithium. Tibet was one of the largest producers of lithium, plutoniums or uraniums, so lithium, almost every single one of us have been carrying a little piece of Tibet with us, but we're not aware with your so, and what has happened because of that, I call it the farming of, industrial farming and excavations and sorry, extractions of natural resources there. It has disrupted the entire ecosystem of Tibet. The stewards, the true stewards of Tibet, have always for centuries been the nomads of Tibet, the nomads, So the nomads have been shifted from their nomadic pastures and they have been put in like almost like these concrete in jail-like looking housings, concrete housing, and they are forced. So that has an environmental impact in Tibet. And now human rights issues is another. I mean, that's a lot of people are not aware. I've been a long time human rights activist and speaker for Tibetan issues for a long time. And about at least about 10 years ago, up until 10 years ago, because right now I don't know the exact numbers, but up until 10 years ago, according to Amnesty International and some other groups, there were over 100,000 protests recorded inside China and nothing to do with Tibet. But everybody knows how the totalitarian system of China is, So I have a lot of discussions. I speak in many schools and universities in US and Canada and even India. And a lot of people, because most people are by design, most conventional people are very short-sighted. So a lot of, if they might be intelligent and educated, but they're very short-sighted. So they tell me, Shenpenn, I mean, it's all good and romantic and beautiful, and you're right, but China is so powerful. China is, huge, and China is this almighty. China is rich. How are you going to deal with that, right? I'm not saying I have the answer. From my research throughout history, if you look at, let's talk about history. How many of you all right here, how many of you all have uttered the word Macedonia in the last 10 years? How many of you have used the word Macedonia? Right?
I have, because I'm interested in
numismatics.
Yes.
I teach Greco-Roman history, so I have uttered it many times.
Okay, other than you two, it's out of your occupation and profession and all that. But what I'm trying to say is, Alexander the Great was Macedonian, right? The Romans, they conquered half the world. How many? I've been to Italy, I've been to Rome, how many people talk about Macedonia today? Not many, right? But let's imagine this in our minds. During the peak of the Roman Empire, they were in power. All the little kingdoms and all the little countries and regions that were occupied by the Romans and the people there, most of them never thought that they would be free from the Roman, power. Nobody. But look what has happened today. Now let's talk about Mongolia. Khan, was able to conquer 3/4 of the world. 3/4 of the world. It's not a matter of joke, right? Now today, how many people talk about Mongolia? What I'm trying to say is it is not scientifically possible to rule anyone through the barrel of a gun. It won't sustain. It is not sustainable. So that's Mongolia. Now let's look at the Portuguese. They ruled, so many parts of the world. What has become of Portugal today? Let's talk about the Spaniards. They've conquered and ruled so many places in the world. Philippines was under the Spanish for 400 years. What has become of Spain today, right? And now in our era, we've all experienced some level of this aftermath or after effect of the British Empire, right? India, most of us are from India here. India was ruled by the British for 100 years. So similarly, when Mongolians ruled 3/4 of the world, all the little kingdoms all over these regions never thought they would be free from the power. And they were not just powerful for that time in terms of economy. They were powerful in terms of even killing people. Right? They had the power. There was no court of laws. There was no human rights advocates. There was no Amnesty International. There was there was none of that. But what has become of them? Look at the British Empire. Most of us here, I have experienced the repercussions of the British Empire in my own life. I went to a school that was colonial. Most of us. But what has become of the British Empire today? They had so much arrogance at one point that they said the sun will never set in Britain. Right? We've all heard that. They've said the sun will never set in Britain, but the sun has set. You know what? Today, butter chicken is the unofficially official food of England. And that, my friends, is called karma. There are Indian people who are richer than the Queen of England today. So, Romel, to answer your question, why and what will happen if Tibet becomes free, it will benefit the entire world, because we will have given the Tibetan people, the Tibetan culture, and the Tibetan Buddhism a safe refuge, a safe place for it to grow, so that it can spread fearlessly and so that it can thrive and flourish. So it will have positive repercussions to the world. Now for India, because most of us are Indians here, look at the border of India, 2,000 some, kilometers or something, Indian borders. If Tibet becomes, India is spending, billions of dollars in the Indo-China border, but it is not Indo-China, it is Indo-Tibet border. So if Tibet becomes free, India does not have to worry about the border. So India will save a lot of money. India does not have to worry about the 10 rivers flowing from the Himalayas, because there's not going to be a systematic detouring of the waters by the Chinese. So there's a lot of benefits. And the Tibetan people, I will be able to go back to my ancestral home, at least to visit. I'm 48. I'm still not allowed to go to Tibet. So in short, I hope that answers.
Thank you. But what about if Gorkhaland is achieved? What does it bring to the table? How will it change that area? People will still be greedy. They will not they will not adopt arts in the manner in which you think it should.
No, I see what you're trying to say, and I actually agree with you. I'm not saying that once Tibet is free or Gorkhaland is achieved, it will solve all issues. No, our families, our personal lives. Look at us. Some of us at some point have financial problems. We solve the financial problem, but then there's other social problems, psychological problems, family issues, internal relationships. So there will always be problems. There's no moment, in Buddhism and Hinduism, life is suffering. What does that mean? We will face these sufferings, but instead of romanticizing and teaching us to chase happiness, which is I personally don't like that. I think we have to stop chasing happiness. Instead of that, we have to teach our kids how to face atrocities, how to face struggles, how to face depression, how to face breakups, how to face the challenges. There's a beautiful, I think it's a quote by Rabindranath Tagore. Let me just read that out to you. It makes a lot of sense, and it just popped up. Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers. Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless in facing them. Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain. Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain, but for the heart to conquer it. This is, I think, what we have to teach, and we have to tell ourselves too. So the problems will be there, but at least, it is people have a genuine identity, because at the end of the day, it's all identity politics that's happening. So the Dali people here, If they achieve Gorkhaland, they will have their own place. They will have their own region. There will be corruption, but there will be people who will have the opportunity to flourish. Do you guys know that, in the Northeast, let's not just talk about Gorkhaland, for example, Northeast, the 7 sisters and all that, 8 sisters and all. The population of the entire Northeast, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Assam, Sikkim, all the population is 45, 46 million people, which is more than Scandinavia and Canada. So the amount of potential that is untapped, it's amazing. Now I will narrow it down to my own passion, filmmaking. Look at the content that is coming out on Amazon and Netflix and Sony or whatever in India, for example, not the world, in India itself, Indian content. Indian content is revolving mostly around Mumbai, South, and UP, Bihar, because the filmmakers are from there. Now, can you imagine how much untapped stories and talents there are in these 45, 46 million people in the Northeast? We will be able to create our own Korean standard, Korean level and Japanese level and Hollywood level contents and actors and people who look like that. So I am not saying that Gorkhaland will solve every single problem inside Gorkhaland, but at least it will be our problem and we will figure it out,
But Shenpenn, if I may interrupt you, Jharkhand, became a separate state. Uttarakhand became a separate state. Telangana became a separate state. Has it made a difference to them, apart from a handful of politicians? The mineral, whatever they're getting out of selling the mineral still goes to the central pool. They haven't had any worthwhile addition to the state funding. The state hasn't grown. It's still corrupt. It's probably worse than it was earlier.
Right. I agree with you. And the solution to the problem is not just, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know much I cannot speak intricately about Telangana and Uttarakhand and all. So I don't have the knowledge in it. So I don't want to speak about them. But if you look at our regions here, I'm not saying that this will solve. Of course, the corruption will be there, problems will be there, but at least the biggest problem our people face from the hills here is identity, not just economy. At least we will have our own state. It's almost like choosing the lesser evil, but at least that is one step closer to the solution. I'm not saying that is the solution, but that is actually one of the biggest step closer to a solution. And I, on a positive note and on a hopeful note, I genuinely have hope in the future generations. Because if you look at the future generations, if you look at the younger generations, a lot of things that we grew up with and our parents grew up with has been debunked and has been, almost non-existing. The level of racism, even like intercaste marriages, all of that has changed. Gender equality, at least the discourse of gender equality and gender sensitivity is there. Transgenders. So the solution takes place, but anything worthwhile, anything worth doing will take time. It is not going to happen overnight.
And I think this engagement with the youth is very important. I also feel the same.
Yes.
That we have to start.
But thank you for your. No, I understand your question and this predicament is there. Absolutely, Romel. I do agree with you, but I'm an insanely optimistic human being. From my own, the trajectory of my life has been such where I have been beaten down, like, okay. So today I'm gonna tell you guys something, right? I spoke in Hindi and I spoke in English and I speak in Nepali and I touched upon a lot of topics. Grade 8. Hear me?
I think there's a problem.
We lost you in between.
Am I audible?
Now you are.
Now you are.
Okay.
Yes.
So So what I'm trying to say is my own personal life also, I've seen, and if we look at the Tibetan movement, for example, the Tibetan refugees, since the Chinese invasion and since the exodus, the first wave of exodus into India from Tibet, along with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tibetans are now living in 40 countries across the world. But Tibetans have been successfully, probably the only refugees in the world that have been able to successfully replant their culture and tradition wherever they are. So I don't know, and I've been through so much in life, Romel, that I'm positive. I'm not just idealistic and unrealistically positive. I believe and I have hope in the future generation. The world, as many problems as there are, but I do think that the world today is a lot better than the world 200, 500 years ago. And the world, 100 years later, I hope, and I have hope in the future generation that it will be better. The concept of race, the education system, the institution of marriage, all of that is going to become obsolete at some point. But there will be again new set of problems. But we have to keep moving forward. And finally, I would like to tell you, Romel, that we will fail, my dear friend. We will fall. We will fall 100 times, but we should all aspire to get up 101 times.
Shenpenn, thank you so much for the answer. I get very excited when you talk about arts as a solution to everything, but I also it saddens me in a way when you use the term "our" like every other political and cultural entity here, which or even ethnic groups, and say our people and our land and stuff like that. I mean, that's just a comment.
No, I know, but I can't talk about the entire world then, because then the focus, because right now we're focusing on the Himalayas, and then even even in the Himalayas, I'm narrowing it down to two cultures and two ethnic groups that have been suffering a lot, and I'm a part of both the Nepalis and the Tibetans. So I'm narrowing it down, but I'm not negating the problems from the rest of the world. I'm not negating Syria. I'm not negating, many parts of the world. I'm not. I'm very politically and socially aware of everything that's going on. But the solution has to start from yourself. It has to start from home. So I'm taking care of my home first.
Yeah. Thanks, Shen. And thank you, Romel. And I'll take Dave. Dave, your hand is not raised anymore, but I know you've been waiting. So over to you. And then I'll take Vijay Lakshmi, ma'am, and then Dr. Satyadeep Chetri. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that great talk. And what really touched on me was that, like, when you talked about the arts being pushed back and the rest of education being given a boost, because and that's where I think the education system has gone wrong right now, because it's the people who do the arts that are actually pushing the world forward in much more, like, look at India, the IAS officers, all these people in the highest ranking of positions all come from the arts stream, and they make the decisions in what should be happening in India. But at the same time, they get tied down, like you said in the beginning, marred by everything else, so they cannot somehow make the changes that they would have liked to see. So is there a way that you see how arts could be propelled in the early educational system in India? Because over here it's all about route memorization and not learning how to deal with the problem, but being shown a solution. So how do you think you can personally, would there be a way for you to somehow tackle this situation with the education, where from the beginning kids learn how to dance and act and be creative? Because that's where it all falls back to, is being creative, and people here are not taught to be creative. How can we change that?
Thank you, Dave. A good question. And I don't think even Sonali knows this about me, even though we are friends and a lot of people here. I will reveal something that many people know about me, and I hope it's evident enough when I reveal what I'm about to reveal. I have personally and individually, I have personally been able to prove the entire education system wrong. I have. I just haven't made it public yet, and I haven't reached a stage where I will talk about it, you know, but it will happen. That I have proven the entire education system wrong is I was kicked out of school when I was in grade 8. I was kicked out of school because I was very rebellious. I would question. So I was kicked out of school in grade 8. But my education began. So academically, all you academic folks and friends, academically, I have not studied further than grade 8 in my entire life. But I'm a very educated man today. And I speak 6 languages. You know, I give lectures at universities. The school that kicked me out, grade 8, that school invites me today to talk to the teachers and the faculty today. So I've proven the education system wrong. So I hope this is a profound, I hope this comes off as a profound answer to your question, Dave, because I educated myself. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, and especially in Mahabharata, you know, Arjuna never impressed me. I'm not even impressed with Krishna. The only character that has impressed me, empowered me, is Eklavya. And I've always modeled him as my mentor, as my guru. So, you know, and Eklavya was a better archer and a better human being than Arjuna, you know. So yeah, so I have been able to, and today I revealed it. Not many people know this.
But like as in Bhavya, where the guy asked him for his thumb, you mean, and same with like your movie Broken Wings, you mean, it's like they try to break you down somehow because the systems that they're built to keep people in check.
Yes, but he was not broken. Even after
even after his thumb being taken, he was still a great archer, and he was still, you mean, like,
yes. I mean, today in real life, you know, how many we read the stories of Mahabharata, and we read the stories of, you know, Pandavas and Kauravas, and, you know, and Bhishma Pitama and Dhritarashtra, what, everybody, right? We read all these things. Sorry, but how many people tell you that I'm inspired by Arjun? But I will show you thousands, if not millions, people who are inspired by Eklavya. You know, so he lived on forever. You know, Arjun's just a part of the story, you know, but the entire, but again, the message of Bhagavad Gita is that, right? Mahabharata, there is you know, even Ramayana, you know, Ram is within me and the Ravan is also within me. It is up to us to recognize. That's why I said in the beginning of my talk, the true meaning of education is not the ability to outdo one another. And, you know, and if I earn more money and if I'm in a more designated position, it doesn't mean I'm more educated. You know, true meaning of education means to be able to empathize, to be culturally sensitive, to be kind, to put yourself in to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoe. That is the true meaning of education. But what has become, everything is, you know, there is this, if you come first in class, if you get A grades, and when you take the class photo, you get to sit next to the teacher and the principal. If you fail, the kid that has failed is at the back, you know, morally down, discouraged, you know. So these things need to change. I just did not go to formal schooling after grade 8, but I didn't stop my education, you know. So I could be a lot of things. A lot of people don't know this. I'm also a pilot, you know. I'm a cinematographer. I speak 7 languages. I can, and I'm a very good cook. So my, you know, openness, the ability that I put myself in, the position that I put myself in, where I didn't allow these big entities to influence me, it opened up to a world of possibilities. In Hindi, they say Sambhav, right? Everything became Sambhav. But the education system and the system tells you that you can only be one thing in life. You can do one thing. You know, I honestly think that kids need to be taught that it is better to be a jack of all than master of one today.
I so agree with you, Shen, because that's been my
Thank you
experience.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Dave.
Thank you so much for coming back to India from the West in the land of comfort and being just everything there for you to come back and try to bring that and raise the level of people's consciousness and everything here. I really appreciate the fact that you gave up that comfort in a way to move back somewhere where you can change lives.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave. And you know what? You know, this whole, for example, spirituality has this whole new age. There's a lot of seekers and everybody, and you know, even though yoga and meditation is going through its superficial phase, but it's still good change. Change is happening. But what I have chosen as a principle, my own life, the way I guide my life, Siddhant, my principle, is that, you know, it is very easy to meditate, you know, by a waterfall. It is very easy to meditate, flowers blossoming around you and peacocks and birds chirping. But I am someone who believes in meditating in chaos. There is a beautiful quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. You know, he says, you need to have chaos in your soul to give birth to a dancing star. You know, so we have to learn to meditate in chaos, not just drink goji berry drinks and sip, you know, fancy drinks and wear Lululemons and go to these room temperature, you know, controlled rooms and do yogas and call ourselves yoginis. No, you know, we have to learn to meditate in chaos. And that's what I'm doing. So that's why I came back in chaos, to chaos. If you want to save somebody from hell, the only way you can do it is by going to hell. We just have to, when you do, you just have to be prepared to go to hell.
And be aware that you're in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember having done that Vipassana course when I was, before I, I was joined being a lawyer, and I wanted to prepare myself to deal with the world. And I did that 10-day course. And then I felt this change. And then I said, oh my God, now I have to go back to the chaos. And the challenge was being aware in that chaos. And it's not easy. And it's a practice. It takes time. That awareness takes time. And I think having a purpose in life actually becomes your stronghold, because then everything falls in place. It's a struggle. It's challenging. There are many ups and more than ups, there are downs. But when the awareness is there and your purpose is there, that's it. And it's not about winning or conquering. It's about doing. And I'm so glad, Shen, that you're doing. And yeah, I'm so.
And I don't know if this is a quote or if it's just a few words, but I run by the thing: the purpose of life is a life of purpose. Yes. And that's like the foundation of should be the foundation.
I'll give you, Dave, I'll give you a much more beautiful quote on purpose. I think that we could all learn from Pablo Picasso. And this is a mantra for my life too. Pablo Picasso said, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away.
Exactly. That's so profound.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate that I have a purpose in life. And to be honest, you know, it's also cathartic for me. You know, it helps me heal. It helps me become the potentially, the potential person that I can be. It helps me connect myself to my higher self, you know, and I want to be the best version of myself. So it gives that, you know, because every single one of you, I don't know you personally, but I know for a fact that every one of you is broken in some way or the other. We're all broken. We all have cracks in us. But unfortunately, because of everything around us, most of us bleed negativity through those cracks. I just made sure the light enters through those cracks. That's all.
Thank you, Shen. And with that, we'll take Vijay Lakshmi Bose. She did mention in her messages that she's spent a lot of time in Kurseong. So, ma'am, over to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Thank you, Shenpenn. You brought back a lot of memories of Darjeeling and Kurseong and the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute.
I went to
Uh,
Bathalts, Kurseong, till grade
oh,
8.
really?
Yes, and I was kicked out of Bathalts in
Okay.
grade 8.
Singamari. Okay, all right. So, yeah, but having said that, and also I wanted to add that being a filmmaker, you know that Ray's film Kanchenjunga was shot in Darjeeling.
Yes.
And what I'd like to talk a little bit about and ask you about is it's also politics, but it's ecological politics. I very disturbing the visuals of the Himalayas with plastic at very high levels, with garbage in the Everest Base Camp. Uh, I've seen photographs of Darjeeling. I can hardly recognize it. I hear about sewage and I hear about garbage. So, what about eco warriors in Darjeeling? What about getting the pride of Darjeeling back? And we've used this platform a lot to talk about responsible tourism. So, I'd like your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the topic of Himalayas, the major um, sort of source of income or business in the Himalayas is mostly it's been animal husbandry and tourism, right? Tourism is very big, and I'm so glad that Vijayalakshmiji, you touched upon this because I am not personally initiating it, or I'm not personally flag bearing this movement, but this movement is happening amongst the young people in Darjeeling. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've met a lot of, I forget the names, but I've I've had a lot of young 20-year-olds and early 30-year-olds come to me who are uh, doing the necessary in terms of environment and plastic issues and even composting, garbage issues. Of course, these are small. They're not even NGOs. They're just groups of friends that are aware and are genuinely, truly educated, and they care. So they are doing it themselves. But this wave is happening. It is happening, and again, everything is relative. Everything is correlated with each other. So at the moment, because the human rights crisis is so high here, and the right to self-determination and the socio-economic issues are so high, that all the other issues have taken a back seat. But to me, it's not. One is not greater than the other. They all go hand in hand. But it is happening. We can stay in touch, and I can actually send you some links or some literature that I find here that is taking care of all of that. And I'm so proud of the young people, and and that's why I have a lot of hope. And today, I mentor a lot of young boys and girls, a lot of, especially guys, a lot of people come to me and first, I mean, I'm not into this whole fame and how many followers and all that, because a true leader will not create followers. A true leader will create more leaders. So my goal is to create more leaders, in whatever field, because a leader will lead, everyone to a higher plateau. If you're on top, a leader will pull everyone up. But unfortunately, we don't have leaders. We have bosses who just likes to boss around, but then those bosses also have opponents like myself now. So it's all I think positive looking. I am hopeful. Definitely an environment, and I slightly touched upon it early on my talk, that mountain towns, the mountain terrains, the houses that we build, and the governance, regulations of building them. You look at Bhutan today, the way their standard architecture, and look at our hill stations. Our governance, our greed allowed us, all of us, to build these ugly concrete buildings. So that's the big environment thing. This is a place, which is no less than the Swiss Alps and Switzerland and New Zealand and so many places in Whistler in Canada and in British Columbia. But so there's a lot of things. There's so much of education and information that is needed, so much of reflection too, introspection on everyone's part. But how can we talk about introspection to people that are not even aware of a thing called introspection? So we have to first figure out, as collective society, educationists, we have to figure out a way to teach people how to introspect, how to care, how to reflect, So my unconventional education, self-teaching, I'm a self-taught guy. I was able to teach myself all of this. So I am a possibility. So if I could prove so many things wrong by educating myself, I know it is possible, but thank you for your question, Vijayalakshmi. The change in terms of environment is happening. Thank you.
And I wanted to tell you that my knowledge of Gorkhali came back to me. I could understand quite a bit of what you were saying, because my uncle spoke Gorkhali as well as Nepali. My sister speaks fluent Nepali. She lives in Canada and shocks everyone by doing so. And she learned in Darjeeling. She learned as a child. So I'm very, very proud of that. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you
take
so
care.
much.
And Shen, I just know one line of Gorkhali, Kasto cha, Ramro cha. And whenever I say that in Kulu with the Nepalis, oh my God, they just open up, their hearts open up. And the smile, and when I sing a song, which I learned, Ukali, Urali, Man ko dhoke, pure deo rali, they just laugh. So I wish I knew Nepali.
And I think it's so beautiful that you both are so sweet and sensitive to this. But it is actually Nepali language. It's not Gorkhali. There is no such thing as a Gorkha language. Mm-hmm. This again, this is a whole new topic. The whole being, the whole becoming of the word Gorkha and Gorkhas. There's so much of debate that can be done. Another panel, another day. This is also very, very convoluted actually, but since it's become a common identity, so we're all just going with it. But this also can be.
Shen, I want to introduce you to Vijayalakshmi ji and Dr. Anjali Kapila. They are like the pillars of the institute. They advise me. They're much senior to me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So lovely to virtually meet you. Hi, Anjali ji.
Hi, Shen. I wanted to say that every word that you said resonates with me, with my heart, with my being. Your words of empathy, of that education is how to think and not what to think. You are amazing. For 3 decades, I have worked in Uttarakhand, and everything that you said about Darjeeling and the soil and the soul of Tibet, everything resonates with me. I'm not born in the land of Uttarakhand, but I have worked extensively, walked the length and breadth, and I have tried, like you, to document the wisdom traditions and the songs of the women of the mountains. For my PhD, I recorded 150 songs, and I have contained them in Devanagari in a book. Amazing. And it is not only me, it is the voices of the women of the mountains that I take across to the whole world and their wisdom. And so now I'm writing the songs of the river Ganga from Gangotri to Haridwar, and it has been an incredible journey, because the real warriors are the people who have so much wisdom and who are singing about their songs and their lives and their traditions and their wisdom. So, I don't know how to thank you. I belong to the mountains. I'm a daughter of the Himalayas. I may not be physically born in Uttarakhand or in the Himalayan region, but I'm trying everything possible to take their voices to the world. Thank you so much for being who you are, and I hope we can be in touch, because we walk a similar journey, Shenpenn. We walk a similar journey.
And I think all of us, Shen, all of us here, we just love the mountains so much. And I think whatever you say, it's like, it's very emotional also talking about all of this. Talking about the voices of the people, the marginalized people, the disenfranchised people, and what it means and what identity means. It's not a separatist identity. It's about an identity which makes us feel whole, that it's not kind of overpowered by, the brands that we are labeled with, but something that is intrinsically human, So the fact that you have touched upon these things, and Dr. Kapila has been, studying, women, for example, and their voices have gone unheard. But I'm glad that there is a forum,
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as this in Hindi, because everything actually is so simple to understand, but we have overcomplicated everything. पहले हम इंसान पहले हिंदू बनने से पहले या मुसलमान बनने से पहले या मर्द बनने से पहले या औरत बनने से पहले अमीर बनने से पहले या गरीब बनने से पहले पढ़ा लिखा बनने से पहले या गंवार बनने से पहले कुछ भी हो, पहले हम लोग को इंसान बनना चाहिए। हम लोग इंसान बन ही नहीं पा रहे, और ये कोई सिस्टम हमें इंसान बनने नहीं दे रहे। So इंसान बनना सबसे जरूरी, I think. First, we have to become human beings. We have to recognize that we're all human beings. I am a man later. I am a Tibetan later. I'm from Gorkhaland and Darjeeling later. First, I'm a human being.
First human being. Yeah.
If I don't resonate. Yeah, if I don't resonate with human emotions, then I'm not a human being. So thank you, Anjali ji. I hope.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It will be a delight to meet you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I am actually planning to come to.
When will you come to Delhi?
I should be in Delhi, hopefully in December, January, because I need to take a little break. I haven't taken a break in 3 years. None.
You'll be taking a break in at the institute, right? You're going to come.
That's what I mean. But in order to come to the institute in Kulu region, I have to go to Delhi.
You have to come to Delhi.
Haji.
Yes. Shenpenn, you have to come to Delhi, and you have a home here, and you have a garden to sit and talk and meet young people. Please come. My home is
I highly recommend you meeting her in her garden. It's beautiful. It's like an oasis in the city.
Thank you. Every time I go to Delhi or Bangalore, there's a lot of youth from the mountains here and the Tibetan youth hostels. They all come and meet me, and they organize this. And I never say no because I feel like it is so important to talk to them. Because
you can call the youth to the garden. Shenpenn, you can call the youth to the garden, and we can have chai together.
Absolutely. Because I don't educate them or empower them through authority, through academics or degrees that I have accumulated. I educate them through lived experience.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
मैं बहुत ही उलझ के सुलझा हुआ इंसान हूँ.
ये शब्द मैंने अपनी किताब में 1000 बार यूज करा, lived experience. I feel I resonate with you so much, and it's such a pleasure. I tell you, such a pleasure to meet somebody whose souls are the same. Such a pleasure. Thank you, Shonali, for this. I tell you honestly.
Thanks.
Absolutely, Shonali.
Yeah, I think we should let Dr. Satyadeep also speak.
Yeah, he had his hand raised. Dr. Satyadeep Chhetri, and after that, I'll take Subhadeep after that. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
Hey, hi, Shenpenn. How are you?
Hi, brother. Hi.
Seeing you after a long time. I mean, about 4-5 months after that.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm coming to Darjeeling very soon. This week, I think I'll be there. So very good evening to all. And I don't have a question to Shenpenn. I've heard him so much and talked to him. So just one small, someone had asked a question that, will you be able to run your state, Gorkhaland, if you get it? Or Tibet, if Tibetans get it? I think we are equating oranges with apples. And to that gentleman, I would just like to say that, it's not a fight for development or anything else. It's a right to self-determination. It's a fight for identity. And very simple. I have written one huge article in Catch News when this whole agitation flared up in 2017. My book on Gorkhaland is coming out very soon, next month. Yeah, it's on the almost about to get published. I mean,
I need
printed.
a signed copy, like
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, and
hand
basically,
delivered.
yeah, of course. And interestingly, what I would like to tell my good friend who was asked that question is, basically one small one small uh, statement. My ship can be small. My ship can be small, but I'm still the captain of my ship. So that's how people feel. And in addition to that, a lot of there are aspirations of the hill people, etc., which has not been fulfilled. And as per one more madam had asked regarding the plastic thing, the meeting that I'm going to Darjeeling is for the plastic free program. A lot of MLAs across the Himalayan region is coming to Darjeeling this weekend on Friday. So Saturday there is a meeting in Pine Tree. This is and even as we talk, if you look at the Darjeeling Chronicle, you will see Sinchel plastic free Sinchel campaign is going on, and there's a group called Zero Waste Himalayas. So if anybody wants to get in touch with us, with the entire populace right from Ladakh to Tripura, who are doing this campaign called the ZWH, which is the Zero Waste Himalaya, we would be so happy to get in touch. And it does not involve any money or anything else. It just needs volunteerism and getting together. So thank you very much, Shenpenn. I think if you're in Darjeeling, we can catch up.
I might be going to Sikkim tomorrow for a day or two, Gangtok.
Oh, I'm in Gangtok, so
okay,
probably we can catch up.
We'll touch base.
Yeah.
Thank you, Satydeep. I was surprised to see you here too. So
why not?
Satydeep is also a friend, and he's obviously a scholar, and much to learn from him too. So thank you.
We would love you to come and talk about your book. If you would, we would be delighted to host you on the forum, Satydeep.
Sure. I mean, yeah. So I'll just give you one little bit background of the book. It's a fact fiction. That means it's a story which starts somewhere in 82 and ends in 2017, about two lives who have traveled the Gorkhaland agitation or the movement, and how their lives have changed, or the lives around have changed, with all the facts, the dates, the time exact of the entire populace. Because our young kids are not reading books nowadays, they read fiction. So this is a non-fiction written in a fictional format. So I'll be so happy to meet you all, guys. Yeah, and
I will take your contact
I'll
from
send
Shen.
Yes.
Yeah, or I can send you my. I'll send it on the chat. I'll send you my email.
That will be wonderful.
Let me introduce Sonali to you guys, to whoever does not know her. Sonali is an archaeologist. She's a scholar, and she teaches in UCLA in Los Angeles, and now she has started. Well, she's still.
And I love the Pashupati photograph behind her.
Yeah.
Pashupati. No, actually, this is Tripura Sundari. This is the logo of the institute. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there is a common thread to that too. There is a reason. Yes.
Yeah.
It looks
so of course, Shiva and Shakta, the architecture speaks, and the colors, the vibrant colors of the Himalayas. So, we are all here for the love of the Himalayas. And
yes,
of course.
And all you guys inspire me in some way or the other, and many other people, because I didn't have formal education, but I am actually working on my book for some years now. I've been writing a book for the last 3-4 years, and I think it'll take another 3-4 years. My book, it's called Within and Without. So hopefully when it comes out, you guys will all get a chance to
great. Yeah, we did talk about it when we met last time.
So thank you, brother.
Yeah, see you.
I think soon, because it's almost 9 o'clock.
Okay, we'll just take the last question, Shen, from Subhadeep. He's been waiting long, and then we will wind up. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, hi, Subhadeep.
Yeah, hi. I actually heard through you, and it was very exciting. Actually, you came across as a very, down to earth, and somebody has sort of lived through the entire, ups and downs, and how the Himalayas have inspired you to see through the entire stuff. So that's very exciting. The only question that I have, and because you're from the Tibetan lineage, very quick. I mean, if you can give a very quick answer, and that is basically that's my dog actually. I'm sorry. This is, dog. Okay. Uh, so the only question is that what is happening to the Tibetan freedom movement? I mean, I think Indians will be most happy if anything happens. Yeah,
What is
yeah, that's all you.
well, the
I
Tibetan
mean,
movement? Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead, Subhadeep.
Yeah, that's the only question. I mean, what's happening? Because yeah, you talked about the diasporas, who have actually spread across the world, and that is absolutely correct. And there's a huge traction world over that I can see, huge traction, and that is a genuine traction. Everybody is actually a well-wisher of the Tibetan cause. So,
Yes,
and there's no doubt about that. It has gone down very well with every society everywhere in the whole world. I can see that,
yes,
and that's
yes.
really something
I-
which is fantastic. So just a
I
quick
think,
one. I mean, yeah.
yeah. So I think mainly because of the Buddhist culture, and with the beautiful leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama,
Yes.
the
Yes.
Tibetans and the Tibetan movement have been
Absolutely.
loved and accepted all over the world,
Yes.
and we've
Exactly.
earned so much respect also.
Love and respect.
But
Yes.
yes. So to answer your question, what is happening to the movement? The movement is very, very strong and alive. I personally know that as long as I'm alive, the movement is alive too. So we have a very, very powerful youth. I'll tell you something very interesting. A lot of people are not aware. Tibet is the only country in the history of mankind, at least in the modern history, Tibet, that has not retaliated in any form of violence.
Yes.
And we've lost over couple million people due to genocide and cultural genocide and atrocities. We've had systematic demolition and of old monastic universities in Tibet. They have tried to destroy the entire ecosystem and the nomadic culture. But the Tibetan ideology and the Tibetan culture is thriving. We are such a small group of Tibetan exiles in the world, spread across 40 nations. But we've been able to raise so much awareness. And I'll tell you something interesting, a new perspective. China is not afraid of anyone because, they have money and they have power. But you know what? China is very afraid of the Tibetan issue.
Yes, that's
because
right.
if there is a cause in the world, if there is a cause in the world that is black and white, if there is a cause in the world that is black and white, it is Tibet and China issue. And like I talked about the Romans and the Mongolians and the Portuguese and the Spaniards and the British, China will break. China will implode from the inside, because it is not sustainable. So the Tibetan movement is alive. The Tibetan movement is kicking, and then we have young, intelligent group of Tibetans all over the world that are, because we genuinely believe that this can be solved without violence. We don't want to go bomb their embassies and kill their people, because we don't have anything against the Chinese people. But the Chinese government has problems. That's why, they're scared. They're so scared. They're so scared. That's why, see, if you build surveillance outside your home, if you have a nice home and you have dogs and you build, CCTV cameras outside, okay, I can understand. But if you start putting security cameras inside your house, in the bathrooms, in the bedrooms, and the closets, it says something about you. It says that you're very fragile on the inside.
Yes, you're right.
Very delicate. So
the truth is with you, as they say.
Yes, it is inevitable that it will break.
Yeah.
And on that note, I assure you that whether it's in my lifetime or the next, Tibet will be free.
Of course.
Thanks, Shen, and as is tradition, and thanks.
Thank you, Sonali.
Yeah, you're
Thanks, Sonali.
welcome.
Thanks, Sonali. Once again, it's really wonderful.
Thanks,
It was really
Shubhadeep.
nice. Very nice.
All
Yeah,
of you
thanks.
make it wonderful. The speakers make it wonderful. And I'm glad that there is a platform on Zoom that we can engage and talk about. And Shen, I know you must be so hungry for dinner. It's late. And if you could, we can wind up with a tradition, words of wisdom from Shen to all of us gathered here today. And then we'll sign off.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Words of wisdom. Can I share share like a poem in Urdu?
Of course.
How many? I think sorry, Elizabeth won't understand, but I will try and explain it. I like to be inclusive, so please pardon me in the first 30 seconds or so. And everybody else understands, I guess, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. This is something that I genuinely believe. So I would like to part and say thank you and good night or good morning wherever you are with this beautiful poem that I live by. ख्वाहिश ऐसी करो कि आसमान तक जा सको, ख्वाहिश ऐसी करो कि आसमान तक जा सको, दुआ ऐसे करो कि जन्नत हासिल हो, यूं तो जीने के लिए दो पल बहुत कम है, यूं तो जीने के लिए दो पल बहुत कम है, पर जियो ऐसे कि हर पल में जिंदगी पा सको. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So
Now for the translation.
I will try and, this is going to be a loose translation, but I hope you get the gist of it.
वाह वाह क्या बात है.
ख्वाहिश ऐसी करो कि आसमान तक जा सको, Elizabeth. It means have aspirations that you reach the skies. Be inspired to reach the skies. Dua ऐसे करो कि जन्नत हासिल हो. Pray that you can create your own heaven. This is loose, but I'm kind of customizing. Dua aise karo ki jannat hasil ho. So aspire to reach the skies, you know, and create a heaven of your own. यूं तो जीने के लिए दो पल बहुत है, बहुत कम है. Even though our lives are very short, you know, it's very short, our human life in the bigger cosmic, you know, perspective. But even that small life, make sure that you live an entire lifetime in every single moment. So you know, most people survive, you know, most people are surviving or competing, or very few people actually live. And I'm so proud to present myself in front of you and tell you that I'm somebody who lives, who is alive, very alive. So thank you very much. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Shen. Have a lovely night. And really, thank you for making our Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shenali. That was beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.